Okay, we're going to jump right in. Let's take a look at the gospel passage that I'm having my students read today. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Now, I'm going to bring up the New King James Version, which I think is a little better here. St. Paul gives us a kind of gloss on that. And do this, knowing the time that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now our salvation is nearer than when we first believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Therefore, let us cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk properly as in the day, not in revelry and drunkenness, not in lewdness and lust, not in strife and envy, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill its lusts. Remember, when Paul talks about flesh, it's usually the Greek word sarx, which doesn't just mean things of the body. It means the things of our unredeemed selves. Joseph Pierce talks about the dragon sickness in the book The Hobbit, and how Smaug the dragon hoards wealth. Because you see, when we go down the path of sarx, or the path of our unredeemed selves, our desires do not bring forth new life and joy. That's how our desires, by the way, are designed. And if you take the desire for sex, for instance, it's designed for the establishment of the family. It's designed to make babies, smelly, messy babies, the best thing that God can give us. But if we hoard that, and if we let that desire be turned toward lust and lewdness, then instead of that desire helping us to love and to bear the cross of love, because it ain't easy to have a family and smelly, messy babies, if we let that desire be a desire that merely serves our own golem-like needs, then we become the dragon. And that's something that's designed to spread out and give joy, and surprising joy, because let me tell you something, you never know what your kid is going to be like. It's always a surprise. The same thing with art. If you create something artistic, you have a certain amount of control, but not really. I mean, you can sort of shape and form, but the end product, especially if it's inspired, is going to surprise you and going to have more in it than you put in it. But if you're hoarding, if you're serving Mammon and not God, if all you care about is drunkenness, revelry, lewdness, strife, envy, these are all products of our unredeemed selves, the sarx, which is usually translated the flesh. You can't do both. Therefore, you have to be willing to make a sacrifice. I tell this story in my book, An Actor Bows, Showbiz, God, and the Meaning of Life, okay? Which if you go to grunky.com, you can probably get it from there. When Father Fessio, who started Ignatius Press, was teaching at Ave Maria College, he reached out to me to help him. And I knew that he was a very important man, and that if I could work with him, I could maybe really advance my career, and my vocation would be more clear, because I could probably do what eventually became Theater of the Word. And he reached out to me and he wanted me to critique a play that some students, some graduates of Ave Maria had done. He wanted me to say what I thought we could do to fix this play. And he had a videotaped version of it. Now, these graduate students ended up doing some very good work elsewhere, but this particular play was not good. He sent me the videotape. I watched the play. I knew it was dear. I knew that the students, the graduates who had put it together, were dear to Father Fessio's heart. And I knew that if I critiqued this play honestly, I would probably never end up working with Father Fessio, and my career might not take the advance that I had hoped. But my wife, Karen, who always tells me the truth, especially when I don't want to hear it, After I watched the play, I said, this play is awful. There's nothing we can do to fix this. How am I going to tell him what we can do to fix this play? This is terrible. You just need to scrap it and start over with something else. And she said, you've got to tell him the truth. That's the kind of wife I have. She didn't say, well, it would really be good for your career. Well, maybe you'll make some money. Well, maybe Mammon is more important than God. Maybe the flesh and the sarks. Maybe you can compromise your integrity because I really want it. No, she told me the truth. Pick up your cross. Stop whining. Tell him the truth. So I did. And he said, yeah, I agree with you. Come on down here and we'll still work together, much to my surprise. And so that was at least a small and imperfect attempt on my part to serve God and not Mammon, to not have the dragon sickness, to be willing to sacrifice for the sake of the truth, because that's from the Spirit. All the other things are not. So if you're at Mass and this reading comes up and the priest doesn't bring it home and doesn't say, you've all got your 2-car garages, you've all got your swimming pools, you're all very comfortable. Life is not about that. It's okay to be comfortable, nothing wrong with it. But if that seduces you into serving Mammon, the god of money, the god of strife, envy, the god of the flesh, the god of Smaug the dragon, then you're doing something wrong. Because really, the cross is what our faith is about. Because from the cross and that suffering and that sacrifice comes new life, surprising new life. Things like abortion, contraception, factionalism, serving party interests ahead of Jesus and his body, the church. These things are serving Mammon, the god of this world, and not serving Christ, the God of the real world and the world to come.